I'm Thanks, Sarah. So, good morning, everyone. I am super excited to have these beautiful ladies join me this morning. Um, I, Sherry and Maddie would know, and Jamie, when they announced that Ed Milet was going to be speaking at convention, I may have screamed and almost woke up the baby in the room. Um, I thoroughly enjoy his book. I listened to it a few years ago when I was working in the coal mines. And so it's been so fun to dig back in, and I cannot wait for convention. So today we're talking chapter 17, 16, and 17. We had to get our chapters straight because we're like, we're not doing three. Um, so the first few minutes, we're kind of going to open it up for the us ladies to kind of share any of our key points that we want to. And then we're going to kind of do some interview style questions because, I sprung that on the ladies this morning, super last minute. And y'all get to unmute and share with us. So, um, Tammy, do you want to go first? We didn't get to this part of organization of who gets to go first. So Tammy, Holly, Julie, whoever wants to unmute and share some of your key highlights from these two chapters. Or Julie can go first. Or Holly. Who wants to go?
I kind of
Or
got stuck
Tam.
on answering your questions this morning. So thank you for that. Oh my goodness, I don't know. Um, I really liked in chapter, I think 16, is one of my favorites. And I say that because he asked two questions in here. Let me find them, which are my favorite parts, which we're going to talk about too later. But what are we for? And then what are we against, right? And I'm gonna go into this, Samantha, because this is like my favorite part, and I know it was a question that we're gonna talk about. But I think when we define that, so I've been on this journey of identity, right? You guys know this. So it was like 4 years of just getting sober, and in the last year actually has just been like, who am I outside of being an alcoholic, outside of being a mom? Who is Tammy? Like finding myself, and that has been quite the journey. And then so not only have I been digging into that, so now where am I in the Plexus world? What do I stand for? What do I want people to see? What do I want to model? And it all lines up with my identity, right? It should, because that's when authenticity comes in, and um, that's how you attract the people that you want to attract. And so when I started looking at this, I started thinking like it's not just freedom and health. Like for me, my enemy, excuse me, no, sir. My enemy would be anything that steals freedom, that clouds identity, or shrinks people. Um, and so when I think about what I want, so that's what I want my culture to be. So in chapter 16, I think that creating a culture, number 9, that he does, having a cause, crusade, and a mission is number 7. And then it lines up with another one. So I'm thinking like anything that steals freedom, clouds identity, right? Um, and then false freedom, chasing success without wholeness, shame-based leadership that controls instead of uplifts. Anything that tells people they're not enough, not capable, or not worthy of the life that they truly want. So that would be for like the business side. And then I think too, my enemy is the quick fix culture that we live in, over medication and symptom masking, um, disconnecting from ourselves, not really knowing. We're not taught that we should just listen to our bodies. I think that that is crucial, and people just run to the doctor for everything. So like these are just different enemies that we have to deal with, and then how are we going to go from there? So that was like my favorite chapter, takeaway from 16. I could keep going on this topic, but um a lot of people are just misinformed, and I'm against that. I'm against people having a small mind. I'm against the fact that culture has made it so difficult for network marketers, but it's also the people that have gone before us that have had unethical leadership, people that haven't really shown us what that looks like. And now it's like relearning that. I've been in some very bad situations myself where they said they were a leader, but that's not leading. But it also has you reflecting on that. And then you're like, whoa, okay, that's who I don't want to be. So it's also a good thing, to be like, okay, those are the traits I'm not going to carry into this, into who I am and what I'm creating. So to be able to step back and look at that, and have people come alongside of you that are great leaders, and then you're like, whoa, that's what it's supposed to be. So it's exciting. And that's kind of my takeaway from 16, especially.
I love that. And I'm gonna jump on that because I I love that chapter and that piece. So I mean the whole chapter 16 is talking about leadership, right? And his 11 principles, I just they're so good. And so I had some fun. The ladies in the chat will know me and my little buddy ChatGPT had some fun digging into this and asking good questions. And having that, so principle number 7, like what Tammy mentioned, is having a cause, the crusade, and then the mission. And some I love the piece just overall for the chapter of great leaders adapt quickly. They adjust without losing their identity. They lead with flexibility, but never without mission. Um, that's a quote from him. And so I think it's like we talk about leadership so much, and that's such a key, like in network marketing, in Plexus. I mean, we talk about that. We've done, we do books, but studies specifically just on that, right? And so, but having that cause, um, and and then that crusade, and then that mission, I think is so crucial. We talk so much about like our mission and like having like what our why is. Um, but when we start to like what are we against, um that really kind of it got me going. It got me excited about some things. And so I was thinking about it not only from external perspective, okay, so what for others, what are we against, like when we think about not waiting for the healthcare system to fix it, or not hoping that energy or gut issues or weight or inflammation are just going to like magically disappear, or not waiting for somebody to hand them freedom or financial flexibility. In Plexus, you get to take ownership, and you get to start where you are, and you get to adapt and move, right? And so I love that piece. And then breaking, generational cycles, all those different pieces, and not just settling for survival, right? We adapt, we pivot, we rise. Um, Again, coming back to that leadership perspective of leaders aren't rigid. We don't break, we bend, and we build better. And then that mission to help people create extraordinary change, modeling, and that's like for us is so key, modeling adaptability and wellness. And it's not about perfection. I was having this conversation with one of my newbies actually last night, and it's not about perfection. It's just about progress, right? It's not about a massive overhaul, right? When people are like, oh, but we have to have this like huge story, and oh, I don't have a huge story, so maybe how do I share? It's just about one more. Like, do you have a little bit more energy, right? Is your skin a little bit more clear? It's not about perfection. And then asking better questions. The other thing that I really enjoyed, was asking this, like, what is Plexus against? And thinking about this like from a leadership perspective. And so rigidity, rigidity, I can't talk today. And like we've always done it this way, right? How we did social media in 2015, is, how we still do it today. No. Our comfort zones, right? Playing small, waiting for the conditions to be perfect, avoiding new conversations or hard conversations or new tools, my little buddy, over excuses over solutions, right? Julie's laughing at my little buddy. You're welcome. And then just stagnation. And I know I've fallen into this, like for those of us who have been around for a long time, sometimes we can get stuck in those patterns of, well, we haven't, we've been trying. We're not going to talk about that word today. Instead of making a decision and cutting off from. So how can we like to move out of that and not get stuck in that stagnation in our businesses? And then lastly, with scarcity thinking. And I just thought that was really like from a leadership perspective, how can we shift like making sure that we're not sitting in those pieces, in those swamps with our paper straws, I like to say. The last piece that really stuck out to me from chapter 16 was actually about competition. And when I first started, when I was in an unhealthy state and place, competition, I thought I hated competition. I thought I hated playing board games because I didn't realize that actually I was super competitive. Just had some unhealthy mindset trash to go along with it. And so when I like started shifting that, and so I'm thinking about competition in our Plexus businesses and okay, how can I apply like how can we create healthy competition in our teams, right? And we hear about sidelines who are, they're going for it. Um, and they iron sharpens iron, right? And they challenge each other and they have that kind of power partner. And so I was thinking about that on a team level and also like for me with my business, like who's that person that's gonna like create that healthy competition. Anyways, all right. Those are my chapter 16. Love them. Julie, Holly, do you have anything you want to share highlight wise? Oh,
I
go
can
ahead.
go.
Yeah.
Um, I really love, so leadership has kind of been a theme for me um, from the start of the year. I feel like it's an area I've avoided because it's not something that I feel like I'm qualified to do. I don't feel like a natural leader or someone that people would follow. And so I love where he's, pointed out that God doesn't call the qualified. He qualifies the called. And I'm like, yep, I need to remember that because leadership is something that I can grow in. And these 11 principles, I feel like they really help me dig into like um areas that I might be avoiding or areas that I wasn't even aware of as a leader. The one thing that he talked about a being an evangelist. That's not something that I ever thought of as applying to my business. But I've also never looked up the true meaning of evangelist. And he's saying that evangelism is a transference of the dreams you're selling to those you lead so that you can project infectious energy to the rest of the world. I'm like, well, that's huge. Like, so then you start digging into like, well, what is my dream with this business? What is it that I want to have an infectious energy to pour over my team? And if I have those dreams already, are they like, does my team know? Am I actually being an evangelist with those dreams? So I don't know if it's a yes or no. It's something I still need to process and dig into and maybe talk to my team about. But I really loved that use of the word evangelist. Um, then I love the reference to wise leaders do not hoard leadership opportunities. Um, I've been in situations where opportunities were taken away from me, and maybe I was aware or I didn't really, I don't know, but there was a lack of a space to grow in because I wasn't given a space to do that in, or championed in that area. And so then I think that also like confirmed to me my lack of leadership or my belief that I didn't carry that. So to like pay attention to my team, to pay attention to their strengths, to pay attention to what they're really good at and to champion them in that area and let them take over that area as a leader. Because if the goal is to grow a diamond-sized team, I'm going to need people to be able to use their strengths, not just lean on me. Um, so yeah, chapter 16 probably like I loved 17, but 16 with the leadership thing, it just definitely resonated with me. He talks about the culture of the team, create a culture, and he talks about be authentic and humble and create a culture. I feel like those two go together really, really well. Authenticity is a huge thing to me, authenticity in myself and allowing each person underneath me to grow and build a team in a way that's authentic to them, is something that I'm really passionate about. I don't want them to do what I say because I said to do it. I want to give them a space to take the ideas I can give them and to grow authentically as it's best for them. And so to create a culture of that, to where he says people are drawn to an overall environment. And if that's, they want a culture where mission, goals, and expectations are clearly defined. I feel like that's super important to me. tying in with the authenticity. And on chapter 17, the equanimity is a word I'd never heard of before. I now love the word equanimity. Having an even mind. I feel like that's something that isn't common. It's not something that we, or I should say to myself, is not common. I feel like I allow my mind to get filled with so much of everything that it just feels like chaos. And I'm going to reread this chapter probably multiple times because I feel like there's so many things in there that I need to process and establish in myself. But yeah, the essence of equanimity. I love that. And I said I liked this, the letting go thing. Letting go can be really hard. And he wrote, I don't know how to pronounce his name, 20th century Thai Buddhist monk. If you let go a little, you'll have a little peace. If you let go a lot, you'll have a lot of peace. If you let go completely, you will have complete peace. And I feel like that can be applied in so many ways to our life, to our business, to our relationship with the Lord, and accepting change. Change can be really hard. So that's my highlight of the two chapters, but I felt like they were both, there's so much more to be processed in there.
So good. Yeah. Julie, have anything you want to add?
Yeah. So for me, one of my biggest things that I kind of landed on was more in the chapter 17 when he was talking about equanimity or peace. And that got me really fired up. And the girls already kind of heard me get on my soapbox a little this morning. But I think as he was talking about that and this idea of having like a calm mind or no chaos, and I just think, I think of a few different things, but it's like God is a God of order. And so if God is a God of order and structure, if there's chaos in my mind, like how do I roll this back and reverse it? And I mean, God promises a peace that passes all understanding, and something that we don't totally understand. And I love how in the last few years, it's like we're seeing more and more, it's becoming more common to see people describing how like science and biblical principle or science and business principles are actually all like tied together, woven together, and rooted in scripture ultimately. And because it's all the way God has designed it, has designed life to thrive. And so one of the things that I think about, because we were talking this morning about like peace and, how do you have peace amidst struggle or hard times or, challenges that come up, and how do you let go or walk through the struggle and the hard while maintaining your peace. And, one of the things that I come back to, kind of two components. One, if God created the ability to have emotion and feel all the emotions, if we want to label them good or bad or hard or positive or whatever, if God created all of that, if we believe that, then he had to have created a way for us to interact with all those emotions and process and interact with them, whether it be like a letting go or this or that. But he has to have the solution as well to interact with all those emotions and walk through it and keep peace in our heart and soul while we walk through all that. Like he has to have the solution, right? And so there is and we were talking this morning a little bit about definitions, like, well, what does it mean to hold on or let go? And what does peace mean? Like, does peace mean there is no trouble, or is there a greater meaning to peace? Like if we're supposed to have peace all the time, and peace is an emotion of calm, then that means all other emotions are not valid. So I'm like, okay, so peace can't mean, I do believe a component of peace is a calm, but there's got to be a bigger overarching settledness and calmness in our spirit while we go through struggle or hard or experience these emotions. Like peace can't be defined. So I think we were just talking about, like, it's important to define what do these mean so that we can know how to hold on to that, right? There's a verse in Proverbs 19, verse 23. It says, fear of the Lord leads to life. Then one rests content, untouched by trouble. And I think it's not that trouble doesn't come, but there is this steadfastness, this sureness that we hold to. And the thing that it kind of boils down to or rolls into for me, and I haven't necessarily always walked in this well, especially the last 4 years, but I think the training or the process, what would the word be, like the process of awareness and acknowledgement and turning to boils down to this question for me, is that if it's true that I am a daughter of the King, if it's true that my Heavenly Father owns it all and He knows my needs, and if it's true that He genuinely enjoys me, and if it's true He genuinely delights in me, He likes me, He wants what's best for me, how then can I respond to this situation from a place of rest? Or how then can I act from a place of rest? How can I work from a place of rest? Just ultimately boiling that down to finding that peace through the question of, like, do I trust that God is truly good and kind to me, for me? And if so, then how can I walk in rest? How can I work from a place of rest? How can I interact? Every interaction, how can I interact with this emotion, this person, this situation from a place of rest, if it's true that God is truly good and kind to me? So anyways, that was something that I just mulled over on a lot.
So good, Julie. So good. It's so true. I love chapter 17. Equanimity, just having that peace, like that inner calm, right? In the chaos. It doesn't mean everything we've been talking about in other areas, right? It doesn't mean you don't feel those emotions, right? And God has that plan. He knows all things. The one thing that stood out to me that it helped me work through a little bit. I don't know if anybody else feels this way, but when he talked about having aggression with equanimity, that really I dug into it because I was like, ooh, it's like when I hear the word like aggression or being aggressive, I'm like, well, no, I don't want to be that. I'm a fairly strong person already, like, huh. And so yeah, it was really helpful for me to break that down, and then bringing the two together was really beautiful. And so where is it? Where's my notes? Why do you want to be aggressive with equanimity? And it says, because aggression without equanimity burns you out, and equanimity without aggression keeps you small. And I was like, woo, okay. And so then when you break it down, so aggression in a healthy sense means you're relentless in your pursuit of your vision. You take bold action in the face of fear. You have a refusal to settle for average. You have high standards, high energy, and high commitment. Equanimity means you have that inner calm in the chaos. You have unshakable presence, not reactive, but responsive. The centeredness that doesn't ride the highs and lows of emotion or external results. And so then when you bring them together, you can take bold risks without emotional volatility. You can handle growth, conflict, or pressure without crumbling. Stay calm when things go sideways, but move like fire when it's time to execute. You can lead a team that feels safe in your steadiness and lit up in your intensity. And so aggression fuels the mission. Equanimity protects your heart while you lead it. And I was like, yeah, I was like, I was dropping little fire emojis on this. And so then why does this matter in Plexus? Um, because especially as purpose-driven women, we often feel like we have to choose to either be kind or to be strong, right? We have to be soft or we have to be successful. We have to be calm or we can be fierce. Um, but you don't have to choose, right? We can move mountains calmly. We can speak truth boldly. We can show up relentlessly, but not anxiously. Yeah, okay, there. I was like, whew, I feel much better about about this. That it was yeah. Thanks, Eva. I'm not alone. Um, did anyone else want to share? I know Tammy, you talked chapter 16. Did you have anything you want to share about chapter 17, or anyone else have anything you want to share about these two chapters before I start asking questions? Ten, nine. No, just kidding.
You definitely need to drop that in our Emerald chat. That's really powerful. That's
Okay.
really crazy. I love that. I
Yeah.
got goosebumps. So
Yeah.
that's amazing.
Yeah.
I'll wait
My
for the
little
question.
my little buddy brings out good stuff, man.
I'm starting to change my opinion about this chat GPT thing. So that's pretty powerful stuff, right?
All right, should we jump into questions? Okay, so the first one is like we talked about, every mission has an enemy. So what do you see? Do you feel like you have a clear defined what your enemy is in Plexus? Um, and if so, what is that? And so the floor is open for anyone to share, but I told my group that they get to share if you haven't already.
I think when Tammy was talking about this earlier, um, I feel like what she's like between like the pharmaceuticals and the easy, quick, fast culture that we're in, people want results overnight, right? And natural products tend to take longer. And so you get people like, oh, that sounds great, but it didn't work in the first 3 weeks. So I think that I don't want it anymore. I feel like that's one of the first like enemies that we have. The second one is people's take on network marketing. I feel like that's a huge one. And I was chatting when I was out in Florida, I was chatting with one of my friends about it. And she was like, if someone adds me as a friend on Facebook and I see that they are selling something, I immediately just ignore their messages or unfriend them or, and I'm like, so you don't even wait for them to reach out to you or to explain to you what they're selling. And she goes, generally, no, I don't. I don't want anything to do with it. And so that was kind of a wake up call to me to process how I go about talking to people or interacting on Facebook and showing people. I don't know if I've got it all figured out. I mean, I definitely don't, but it was just something it was interesting. I'm like, okay, this is definitely a problem. If she's saying
Mm.
this, she's not the only one seeing it this way. And so people need to see it in a different light as a great opportunity and not someone trying to just bug them and sell something to them. So I feel like those are two big enemies for me, at least.
Interesting. So, okay, so I have a question. I like what Sherry dropped in the chat. And so if we come back to what we were talking about with this chapter, and especially having that mission, that vision, or sorry, not mission, vision, mission. I'm so used to saying those two words together. The cause and the crusade. So in that moment, if you were to put on like your leadership thinking hat for a second in that moment, it's not necessarily that you're doing anything wrong. Is it just that they're stuck in that swamp with that paper straw of scarcity, victim settling for, well, they're not open to new opportunities. It's not necessarily that you're doing anything wrong with what you're talking about. We all sell stuff. I mean, if you have a 2-year-old and you've ever had to put a winter jacket on them, you've sold something. If you're married or have a kid, you've sold something, right? Um, so so in that, I mean, if you have a friend, you've sold something, right? When we like, if we could burst that bullet in our minds and go, okay, what if it's not, like, check yourself. Yes, there's always that moment of like, hey, am I being, you know, the annoying commercials on TV? But then what if we were to shift that and go, I love that person. They seem like, I'm sure they're lovely, but they clearly don't have an open mindset right now. They're not open to that, and that's okay. That's just where they're at. We can love them where they're at. Um, but it's not like, oh, well, we have to like do it differently or try to like change this. It's just maybe
Well,
there's not
I
open to
think you're right.
opportunities.
I think more what I meant by that isn't that I need to change me or but I do think like as a culture, network marketing has kind of gotten a bad rap. Like it's not just this one friend.
Hmm.
And so
Mhm.
I think I mean more like just shift not just how I show up, but maybe find a way. Yeah, I don't know. Just there has to be a way, an angle to show up so people see it as a an opportunity and a positive thing. I don't have the answer to it yet. I just know that it's definitely one of the enemies. I definitely know that the view people have on network
Totally.
marketing has definitely been something that I've come up against multiple times. So figuring out how to conquer that enemy is, I haven't figured that completely out yet, but yeah.
Hmm. Hmm. I love Sherry's comment. I used to think marketing was bad because they are trying to sell stuff. Then I realized, um, thankful, help me solve the problems that you have, right? And that's just it, right? When we're doing network marketing the way it could be done and should be done, but rarely is, it that shift will happen, right? And if they've, yeah, I love what Eva's comment. If they've never had someone genuinely care about them, regardless of if they buy or not, right? Um, that's such an important piece. And I think that's one of the questions I have coming up. So appreciate you sharing, Holly. Tammy, the first question.
I already
Every
shared
mission has an enemy. What is,
in
you already shared that one enough? You feel? Yeah. Do you want to like give me the one liner again, or like what you think you're.
I just think I wrote down anything that steals freedom, clouds identity, and shrinks
Mm,
people.
mhm.
Um,
Yes. So
anything
good.
that tells people they're not enough, not capable, or not worthy of the life they want. But then I
Mhm.
had like the health side, which is the quick fix culture. And then I even wrote the network marketing part where you have the skepticism and the scams due to unethical leaders and pushy sales. So, and then there's shame around selling, lack of transparency. I think we really struggle with that and showing people the hard. And, we
Mhm.
say, oh, well, all you need to do is add 3 people and then you have your products paid for. I believed that starting in this. We all know that's not true. 3 people, yes, they're going to get the bonus, but it's not like, I don't know. It's hard work. It's hard work. We need to be honest about the hard work. We need to be honest about the consistency part and the action part and all the things, and just show them this isn't just like it's not a quick fix for our
Mhm.
health. It's not a quick fix for our finances either. And to show
Yeah.
people that we are actually, we're working this like a job is very important. And then the scarcity mindsets that people have. I've never had this though, which is crazy. I just always, from the time I was born, I just always was like, there's something more. There's something big gonna happen in life. Like, I've always been able to see outside of like what everybody considered normal. So for me, I don't understand people that live like that. I don't understand people who can't be open to change. And for me, it's a different concept. So going against that is really hard, for sure.
Mhm. Mhm. Comes back to that the mission piece, right? When we have that strong mission, one of a side note question that I had was, what does it mean to lead others in a cause, not just sell a product, right? And that's kind of the whole, like, what we're getting at if we dig a little bit deeper, right? We're not just trying to, I mean, that's the whole point of this, right? We're not just trying to sell a product. It is a cause. It is that shift. It's more than that, right? It's so much more than that. Um, yeah, so good. Julie?
Um, I hadn't really reflected on that. I found it an interesting question when I read it. I was like, that's really interesting. But I honestly didn't reflect on it. But I love hearing like all the things Tammy's saying and Holly's saying, and as all you ladies kind of speak it out, I'm like, oh yeah, 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 yeah. But I think some of the answer, kind of what Holly was saying, because it is true. I think the enemy is like the stigma of network marketing, right? And so I think some of the solution is just being different and realizing like there's haters, like, and I'm not here to pour my energy into the haters, but if we can focus on being more of a who we are, and doing will be a part of that, but it's more of a being. And when you create that culture and that movement, it's going to attract those who are hungry and wanting something different, like Tammy's saying. And maybe over time, those on the sidelines, they're going to see that your heart and your vision and your mission is different, that you are changing the stigma around it. But yeah, I think a lot of it is pouring our energy into being and sharing the greater vision and culture and heart, and those who are hungry will come for it. So yeah.
Thanks for sharing, Julie. It's really good. So for me, being Julie Challen told me that I had to share too. The enemy that I see. So when I think about this, I guess I put on, like, I was thinking like in terms of like if you were going into battle, like who's on the other side of that fence in terms of like, and like what am I against, right? And then he talked about that a little bit, right? Like if you're, if you run a soup kitchen, you're against, hunger, kind of a thing. And so not so much like what do we come up against in terms of other people's opinions or, those pieces, but more if I was like in terms of my social, and in terms of what I talk about, like what am I against? I'm against that, like people playing small. I'm against, and I used to be there. I'm against, victim and scarcity mindset. I'm against stagnation. I'm against, hoping that the problems are going to disappear. And so getting like actually using that as, again, like with that cause, using that as a point, instead of talking on Plexus, about Plexus, or putting a post up about like, how maybe things, haven't been done properly, or there's, some people have opinions about it. What if I was to approach it as like my enemy that I'm talking against was against that? Like, who am I looking for? I'm looking for people who want freedom and flexibility in their finances and have abundance mindsets and want more, right? And so what am I against? Actually getting like, it's kind of like, instead of talking politics, talking about how much I dislike victim mindset or staying small, and getting like really passionate, I guess, about that, and like why that, like using that as fuel. I don't know if that makes sense, instead of like, other bad guys out there, right? Like people, people who hate on network marketing, whatever. But like, no, what I really don't like is people who are, they choose to stay stuck, or they had one bad experience, with one bad hairdresser, and now they've sworn off hairdressers for the rest of their lives, right? Same thing with network marketing. They're not all the same. So that's that's how I guess I viewed that question and kind of that, and it gets me. I guess there's some like kind of what he talked about. There's that when we apply that to the next chapter too, that aggression, like I can be bold with that, not in a way that, I mean, somebody might get offended by it, and I'm okay with that. My goal is to come across in a loving, kind way still, but to be really bold about that, it gives a lot of fuel. Like you're going to attract, because we always talk about that retracting and repelling, right? I'm not just looking for anyone. How am I going to find people with those same beliefs as me? Well, I get to get bold about that, right? There you go. Okay, that's my answer. So our next question was, what is your relationship with equanimity? And that's kind of like a big question that you may or may not have an answer to. And so I have a couple of kind of that's the overarching question. But where in your plexus business are you pushing hard but not from peace? Who wants to go first? And I guess a second portion to that is, and what would it look like to lead from calm conviction instead of anxious hustle?
So this is something that really hit me in December. So I was 2 orders away from the cruise, and it got to a point where I got so desperate, I started like messaging, just puking on people, right? Um, and after not winning that, I was not angry that I didn't get it. I was angry at myself because I had 4 months to get it, right? So why did I wait until the last month to try to push for these numbers and be so close yet so far? And instantly I knew um that I pushed too hard, and I really there are a few people I went back to and apologized, but I need to do a little bit more of that. Because I felt really ashamed. Like I felt embarrassed, actually. That's the word. Very embarrassed because it was out of desperation and not from peace. And so for me, that's not ever going to happen again. Like I have determined I will never invite people to any kind of thing that's going on if I haven't been actively communicating with them. It's not going to happen. I think that when we lead from calm conviction versus the anxious part, it changes everything. Changes your energy, your language, the way you strategize it, even the outcome, your presence. Like it changes everything about your vibe. So if you're shooting for wholeness as a group and as in trying to create a culture, and then you bring that desperation, that's so ugly and it is so unattractive. Like I just I really learned a hard lesson from that. And I think it makes a world of a difference when there's no desperation, because panic does repel, peace invites, right?
Mhm.
So the peace would be like, I'm already whole and I want you to win too, right? Kind of a thing. But panic is more like, just please say yes so I can win this and do this and blah, blah, blah. That's so ugly. Just don't do what I did. It's so disgusting. And I could just kick myself over and over, but it wasn't worth it. It wasn't worth how I felt as a person, because that's not who I am. So why did I make myself that person? That's not me, because I wanted a goal. It was important to me, but I needed to be showing up as that person and not act like somebody else to get what I wanted. Like, yeah, that's my take on that.
Thanks for sharing, Tammy. And I think, yeah, I think we all have been in that place at one point or another. It's great to have awareness and to learn from that. Um, I guess a piece of encouragement I would just have for you is, how long are you going to kick yourself over it before you're like, okay, I learned my lesson. We, it's okay. We can give ourselves some grace, right? And and it's good. And I know that sometimes it's a hard thing when you're like, oh, but it's okay. Like the right people, if they're meant to be on your team, you can't screw up God's plan. We can learn and we can do better, but you can't screw that up. Holly,
Yeah, I like what you just said about
I see
like
you're
you can't
unmuted.
screw up. Yeah. No, what you just said about it doesn't
Sorry.
matter, you can't screw up God's plan. I really love that you said that. Um I am gonna totally piggyback on Tammy because this is actually a conversation that her and I had. We both pushed super hard for the cruise and I want it in like minutes. But the first thing I said, going into January, her and I talked and I said, I'm not doing that ever again. I'm never going to wait till the last minute and push in a way that I don't feel proud of myself. That I don't feel like I could say, go do this. You should do what I did. Um, and so I just, yeah, it was a huge thing for me. So like this, the first chunk of this year has been like a process of me reevaluating how I approach people and how I talk to people. And for me, like I always say, oh, I'm gonna shoot for this goal. And then I tend to wait to the last minute and do exactly what I say I'm not gonna do. So this month, at the beginning of the month, I told my girls that I am going to work towards a goal, but it looks completely different when you're not doing that. It feels completely different having organic conversations, and if it comes up, following naturally. So I think for me, like setting a goal but not being in a state of panic or just being in a place of calm about how that goal happens and if it happens on my timeline or God's timeline, right? Like I can't always set the timeline and then the next month be completely upset because I didn't hit my goal and lose all motivation and be down on myself because I've had a pattern of that, right? Like I set a goal and I don't hit it and I'm like, well, it doesn't work. And then I'll like quit working for a while. Well, that's just that pattern doesn't work. You can't keep that up. So yeah. I don't know if that even answers that question, but that's what came to my mind with all of that.
Yeah. Oh, it's good. It's good. It's that self-sabotage piece. Julie?
I honestly don't know if I have too many thoughts to add other than what has already been shared. But I agree. I remember years
Yeah.
ago, um, I mean, you learn and grow. I think that's the biggest piece. Like instead of beating yourself up, like move forward. Because I look at some of the original posts and original messages that I sent like 8, 9 years ago, and it is like it's cringy, right? And it's like you can either get caught up in that or you can just move forward and be like, okay, that was terrible. And let's move forward, right? Like what does peace look like? It's not panicked and rushy and but it is also, I think the other ditch to fall into is like, I'm just working from peace and calm, but not putting in the aggression, good aggression. Like you clarified, Samantha, right? Like you need that healthy aggression, just being aware of both ditches because and I see that in the network marketing space where I had a level 1, she went silver in a week, she put in a lot of work, and then she got one message from somebody that was like, you're being all weird and spammy network marketing. She was like, ah! And it's like stopped her in her tracks. And I was like, no, you were putting in good effort and you were doing excellent things and you weren't being weird and spammy and gross. But there's those two ditches, right? Like one is like we get desperate and we do cringy things. But the other ditch is like, no, like sure we're at peace, but we're also not pursuing. And that hinders everybody. Doesn't serve nobody. So
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, so I have fallen into this trap, I'd say similar of that piece of like, oh, it's the month end. I set big goals for myself and here we are, and haven't done the work. And you start to like beat yourself over the head. And of course it's so, but in that moment, in the last, 48 hours of the month, there's that like I gotta get to my goals. Um, and something that I've noticed is being able to shift some of that, working in my strengths of I work really well with a really tight deadline. And that, so how can I use that to my advantage, but do it in a constructive, healthy way that's going to support my business long term? Um, and so being able to say, okay, how can I like let let's plan to do lots of extra work at the end of the month to set myself up for the following month, and not approach it from a place of desperation, but just like, let's go to work. Now, we're working on backing that up and setting, hard deadlines for myself the first week of the month and the second week of the month, and so that continues. But just knowing that, like, okay, I actually work really well under pressure and with a tight deadline. So let's approach it from a healthy way, not be spammy, not be salesy, not be pushy, but just like how many new messages connecting with people um, can I get done in that timeline? They don't they most of the time they're probably not going to be even relating to Plexus, depending on where I'm at with that person. So that's been one of the shifts that has really helped me kind of like focus that, and then also taking that pressure off of like not coming at it from a place of like anxious hustling, but being okay with like hustling from a place of peace. And and then so here's my question, because we were talking about the cruise. So it's the last month's convention contest and it is April 16th. So how are we approaching the end of the convention contest? And we still have, it's April, 14 days left. How are you setting yourself up to not fall into that trap? And this is a question, could be a rhetorical question, or you could drop in the chat. How are you setting yourself up to not fall into that? Isn't it through May? It's April. It's April 30th, isn't it? It's the end of April. This is the last month of convention contest, right? I'm not, yeah. Yeah. So what are you doing? Because I know I'm like close to like, hitting one of those tiers, and I'm like, I've been watching it and I know it's there. I know I have that goal. So what am I doing now this weekend, setting as if the end of the month was this weekend, you know, what am I doing to set myself up so I don't fall into that place of um, this is my hard deadline. And then I'm going to set another hard deadline for next weekend. And then I'll set another hard deadline for the actual month end. So so then I've done 3 month ends in a condensed period of time. And then I'm actually able to approach it from a place of a little bit more abundance. Does anybody, we've got like 4 minutes left. We've got lots of more good questions that we could ask, but does anybody else want to unmute and share? 3 months and 1 month without the stress. That might sound like really scary for people if you've been working from a place of stress. Anybody on the call, if you want to unmute, if you've got things to share.
I just simply
Thanks for popping.
Sorry, Samantha, for interrupting.
No, you're good. You're good. Go for it.
I just pivoted from a place of like, because I hadn't looked at the convention contest, to be honest, because with everything that happened in February, I wasn't really working. I was doing the bare minimum, and I just thought, I'm not even going to go there. So I looked at it and I didn't realize how many points I had, and I'm really close to the third tier, but I only signed up one person this year. And for me, that was like, okay, how can I do this? And so I started to get that, okay, what am I going to do? Who am I going to? And I just stopped. I was like, no, I'm just going to surrender this. I'm going to pray. I'm going to chill out, and I'm going to keep serving and loving people. And so I reached out to a few people about random things. I helped one gal with something totally unrelated to Plexus. And she's like, thank you for helping me. Oh, by the way, I want to start again. Let's just do this. Right. And so it was so exciting. And so I just recentered and just was like, okay, so maybe I'm not meant to sweep the contest to get the third or fourth tier, maybe whatever, but how can I keep loving and serving people? And I asked myself, if I don't get this, why is it? And if I'm being honest, it's because I think I should be farther along than I am. And I don't want other people to judge me and look at me and go, oh, Shell, you didn't make anything. You didn't go there. I'm like, it doesn't matter what other people think. I'm going to be where I'm supposed to be. What if I don't make one of the parties and I have an amazing interaction with someone else? And that's where I was supposed to be that night. I have a brand new level 1 coming. So I'm just going to be like, it's not about me. I'm going to love and I'm going to serve and I'm not going to quit working. That doesn't mean quit working. It doesn't mean post and pray. It means I'm going to love and serve and add value. And I'm not going to get stressed out about what I get because I'm making it about me. And this has never been supposed to be about me. So anyways, that's really helped me. And I'm just reminding myself, wherever I get is okay.
Okay. Thanks for sharing. Anyone else? Okay, I have one more question because we've been kind of mostly talking about that for us and our businesses. And so this could be for anyone. This is the last question. And we can hop off and you can drop it in the chat after. I've got some other questions we're going to drop in the chat. But what does your team feel from you? Pressure and push or peace and purpose? How can you model fierce action plus a calm presence to the people watching you? What would it look like for you to finish up the last 16 days of the month, or 14 days, sorry, it is the 16th. What would it look like what would it feel like for your team to see you model fierce action and a calm presence? What would that look like for the next 14 days? Okay, it is 10:59. If you want to drop it in the chat, in the Emerald chat, we can continue the conversation, and we've got some other good questions for you. Thank you all for spending time with us.